Good afternoon, everyone. It's Saturday, March 14, 2026, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time here in Champaign, Illinois. You're watching Co-op for Two. You probably already know that. You're joining me for session 7 of Unboxed. This is a tiny little puzzle game. 10 scenarios. Each scenario, called a site, is framed as an archaeological dig of an ancient board game. And our job is to figure out the rules to this board game with some little symbology. I am in love with this little game so far. 6 sites, they've all been good. The only thing that we're sort of hoping for is a little bit more of a challenge. I'm going to be sad to finish this box, and I'm afraid that this box has not gotten the positive reviews it deserves. There were some early reviews that might have gone out to reviewers as much as a year ago or so, and the reviews were mixed, which I don't understand, except if you take this game lightly. We happen to have a great group here in the chat, and we take this game very seriously, and so far we've done very well. However, we should not get complacent, because it would be sad to mess a game up or get stuck. All right, how is everyone doing this weekend? Anything else to talk about before we get started? Any projects anyone is working on? I suppose I should remind you that on Sundays we've been playing a play-by-mail game called Letters from a Ghost Hunter by the Deadbolt Mystery Society. We will continue that tomorrow, Sunday. I think we're on letter number 6 of 12, so halfway through. Unlike this game where you could join at any point, there's no continuous story. That one, you really do need to be following along the story, but you do have time between this afternoon and tomorrow to watch the previous sessions. We've got a couple of aspiring board game designers in the chat. With us today is George Costanza, Sherm, who's actually entered a game in the local design competition here in Champaign called Kudo Plays. They're having their final event, that's not the right term for it, but their announcement of the winners this month, at the end of this month. And I'll be there, and Sherm will be there with his entered game. I'm very curious to see. I don't think, for me, the winning of that contest is meaningless. I say that. It's easy for me to say having not won, but I did enter New York Noir in it. But I don't think it's about winning. It's about helping you get your game finished and forcing you to use deadlines and actually deliver something. And I think Grand Exhibition it's called. Okay, and then Miss Gnosis here is also working on a board game. This is the first time I remember hearing about it, or at least in it, with it being such an actual thing. My own board game project hopefully took a large leap forward last week. Well, let's hear about it. You know, there is a Discord for this channel. There's a bunch of people in it 24 hours a day, including some people who are skilled at various things. We've got a couple people who are very good at the AI stuff, and a whole bunch of people helping me work on New York Noir. But if you're working on something, please feel free to drop in the Discord. Tell us about it, maybe ask for playtesters, etc. There's also a Board Game Geek forum for this channel. A guild, they call it. You'll find links to the Discord and the guild on this YouTube channel somewhere. If you click on the links, you'll also find a link to the Patreon of this channel if you feel like supporting it financially. You know I have no relationship with any publisher. Last thing to mention is that we played last night for 4 or 5 hours a new case from the Magnus Protocol Mysteries, Cold Case Supernatural games. I think I'm cooling a little bit on the execution of them, but I do love the supernatural setting, and it makes me think we need to spend a little bit more effort creating a supernatural alternate reality in New York Noir. If you want to write a supernatural mystery, maybe jump in the Discord and talk to me about it. And I think that this idea of puzzles based on trying to understand board game rules is ripe for further development if someone wants to expand this idea. All right. Let's get started. So we've been playing this game as a little bit of a campaign where we get 1 hint token for free at the start of each game, and if we don't use it in one game, we can play it on the next. I'm going to go ahead and give us our free, what they call relics. Where are the rest of the relics? There's the relics. Okay. So there's our free relic. I did print out this, scan the last page of the manual where we could keep track of our score. Here's how we've been doing so far. We've basically got perfect, and we've answered every question perfectly, but we've paid 2 points for taking 2 hints here. The hints are so minimal, but they only lose a point. It's just right at the right point where we're like, if we don't have to take a hint, I'd rather get that extra point, but it's so small that we're bound to do it. We're bound to make a mistake somewhere. These are a little bit scoring yourself on some of the questions. You got to use your judgment about whether you should get full score or not, but we are doing pretty well. 4 more sites to go. As a reminder, all of the games that we're trying to figure out are multiplayer competitive games. And so far, the tokens, which come in 4 colors, have all been used for different player pieces. Whether that is true of every game, we don't know. I also wanted to observe one other thing that I've noticed. Maybe you've already noticed. The manual mentions in one throwaway sentence that the sites get harder as you go. And that hasn't really been our observation. In fact, the first 2 scenarios were maybe the more difficult of any of them. But I have noticed a pattern. And the pattern has to do with how many questions there are. In the first 2 sites, there were 4 questions for each, for a total of 12 points. In the second 2, there were 5 questions on each game. In the 5th site, there were 6 questions, and in the 6th site, there were 7 questions. Each question were 3 points. So they are increasing the number of questions we have to answer. So maybe that's the shorthand for the game gets more difficult. Okay, let us open the book to our 7th site. Here's the 6th site. This is the one we did 2 weeks ago with the solution on this side. And here is our new scenario, our new site called the Charioteer. The driver of a chariot, I suppose. This particular dig site is fascinating. Scrolled on some tablets, I've encountered depictions of a particular character on a journey that starts from humble beginnings and ends with a giant crowded arena. I wonder what the arena event could be about. All right, now look, we've got a whole bunch of questions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 questions now. All right, let's see what we need here. All 4 colors, and the actual counts are important here, but I guess this looks like all colors of all counts. Is that right? 2, 4, 6, there's 8 of each. And are we looking at 8 here? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8. Yes. Okay. So all of the tokens of all colors, these are all, to remind you, playable games when you figure out the rules. And that's in fact what makes this puzzle so special, this kind of puzzle so special, is that you have to use a little bit of domain knowledge about what would make a fun game to solve some of the ambiguities. All right, so we've got all of our pieces. We might want to stack these up to make it easier to get everything in camera at the same time. I almost wish I had a little, I probably should print a little 3D storage tray for these. It would have been nice if it was included, because we kind of have to spend a couple minutes every session sort of arranging these and knocking them over. It would be nice. All right, now the other components we need are the R5 rule card. That's what we're calling these large cards. And then 2 decks, the B deck and the D deck. Let's see. No, the B deck is here. I wish they would give us counts, because you can make a mistake here. But we believe, okay, here's our familiar B deck. And let's see what else. We need the D deck. Where is the D deck? Have we played with that before? We've got E cards. E is weird. Okay, so there's the D deck. I'm not sure we've ever played with this D deck before. I wouldn't have minded them using the proper pattern of the card back and account, just so you know you're not missing anything. On the other hand, these playing cards, if I took a few out, it wouldn't make a difference. Okay, this is definitely a new deck we've never seen, the D deck. The B deck we're quite familiar with. I tend to call these the animals, but we're actually told these are gods. And they come in different god flavors, animals, and different colors. Most of the time, the mechanic here has been a sort of domino mechanic where you can't, or you must put matching colors and creatures. The D deck, let's have a look at this. We've got sword, horse, chariot, sword of different colors. So we've got a red set, a blue set, a black set, and then we've got 3 flags that match the 3 different animal gods. And these are colorless, all with the same back. Okay, 3 different colors, suits, and 3 different symbols. Sword, horse, and chariot. And sometimes the description is, there are clues in here. A journey. Humble beginnings ends with a crowded arena. And the question here is, I wonder what the arena event could be. Here are our questions. I haven't looked at this rule card yet. This is going to be the main contents for us, but let's just look at these questions first. What does the initial setup look like? What does the setup look like for the second stage of play? Okay, 2 stages at least. What is the main form of player interaction? How do the wooden discs function during gameplay? How do all the cards interact with each other? How is the second stage of play resolved? What ways can a player increase their score? How does the game end, and what determines the winner? Okay, great stuff. Now, R5. Why do you suppose, like, look, here's R4 shown this way. Here's R5 shown this way. I really don't love that. I wish they would use a consistent symbol stuff. Otherwise, you feel like, what is that trying to tell you? And you got to make sure, like, there aren't multiple R5s, right? No. Okay, I just wish they were a little clearer about that. All right, let's look at our R5. We don't know if there's a front or a back. All right, let's make our observations. Refrain from trying to guess anything yet. Let's make some observations. First of all, here is the complete set of the D cards, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and here are 12. Now, this seems to suggest to me that the black player or black suit gets this specific animal symbol, and the blue gets this specific one. But this clearly looks like setup, yeah? Like it wants us to arrange that grid. In fact, let me just arrange that grid because that looks like setup to me. And we've got the blue underneath in this order. And then the red. And then let's see, which gods come out here? It's the owl up at top, then the fox, and then at the bottom is the lion, although really it could be a little clearer, but yeah, that's the lion. Okay, so here is our setup. Always a little tricky. I wonder if I couldn't, well, okay, let's not worry about that. All right, there's our setup here. Now, 10 cards looks like at the top, maybe random 10 from here. But then what's happening here? Okay, each player has all of their tokens and 3 cards in hand, maybe face down. All right, then something happens here. Looks like a bag. Looks like there's an axe, a stone axe in the bag, along with some chips or something. It's actually 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This may be significant. There's only 7 of each color here. Yeah, because 1 is used maybe on the scoring track. So we need 8 of each color. 7 of each color go with the player, and maybe 1 of each color on the scoring track. Okay, and then we're familiar with this symbology, right? The sun is at the start, the moon is at the end. So this looks like you're traveling on this circuit. There are some face-up cards at the start, and then some face-down cards. So it looks like here, the blue player is back at the start. Maybe they haven't gone yet because you're going in player order. I'm not sure. These two players are tied at this position. So maybe first stage is a race to the end. Not sure how you get there. This is quite confusing to me. Let's see what's on the other side here. I love this moment where you're looking at this and you're like, what? All right, so what have we got here? 4 sections. This looks very different than the other 3. The other 3 look like they're doing the same basic thing. What are they showing us? So this looks like an example card from this deck. Various combinations. So are these 3 examples? Okay, we've got a red lion and a blue fox. And what is it showing us? Okay, well, here's our first observation. I think we're looking at an example of move 1 space, an example of move 2 spaces, and an example of move 3 spaces. I believe that's what we're looking at. It's a movement game, a race game, as you might call. And here's an example of moving 1 space, 2 spaces, and 3 spaces. Now, why is this a move 1 space, and why is this a move 3 space, if I'm right about this 1, 2, 3? Let's see. So we do have a little bit. Oh, I suppose this is our game board. Might be useful. I wish I had put my green overlay here. All right, let's look. We've got a red lion and a blue fox. Here is the blue, and here is the fox. And in this case, we've got a red fox. So the colors of the god animals match these 3 colors. That's the detail here. All of these are in these 3 colors. So are we looking at how many things are... Yeah, okay, here's, I think, what we're looking at here. If you match one of the flags, you get a bonus movement. So the reason this is 3 and this is 2 is because there's no owl here matching the red. No, red is not owl. Okay. I think that's what's happening here. So in this case, we're matching the fox, who's blue. So in this row, we've got blue and fox, and here we've got a blue fox. So the chariot color is matched. So you move 1. And the fox is the same color, so we move another. In this case, we don't have a match for the flag. The leftmost animal why are we colored red chariot and red horse here? So let's see. If we look at the animal, if we look at the animal here, it's lion. So does that mean we're triggering red stuff? The second one is a fox. Okay, we're on the right trail here, but let's think this again. If you look at the first animal, it's a red lion. So we look at the lion, it's red, but why do we have a blue chariot here? What determines the chariot color? It's the second animal, it's the second animal, it's the first animal. Why is there a sword here, but no sword here? Feels to me that this is phase 2. This is saying at nighttime, we have this third phase, but what is... So the chat may have figured this out yet, and I haven't, but I want to spend a little bit of time on this. I mean, all right, rather than try to solve it, let's do our thing. Let's just make some observations. I've hypothesized that this tells you when you would move 1, when you would move 2, and when you would move 3. It's a little unusual in that the mix of colors, I'm sort of guessing that, but what would you do here? You've got cards. You've got this bag. Boy, that's weird, huh? What are you doing with these? Are you betting them? You're putting them in a bag. Like, you only need one of each token for scoring. What are you doing with your things here? This feels like, okay, this feels like maybe a betting game where maybe you're betting on which chariot you think is going to win. And this is like first place, second place. So is this one of these games where it's a race, but it's not your horse winning that determines who wins? It's to do with betting on who will win. That still leaves us, still have to figure out how that would work, how you would keep track of your bets. There do seem to be 4 horses here, 4 racers rather than 3. So these aren't the 3 racers. So I'm not sure how you would keep track of who's betting on who. But all right, let's go back to this for a second. If this is right, that this is a movement of 1, movement of 2, movement of 3, what is the rule that determines movement? These, black is the color of the owl, and there's no owl. Red is the color of the lion, but there is a lion, so that color is not determined by that. We do have this right, though, right? We don't want to make a mistake about what row everything goes in. Owl, fox, lion. Okay. I'm assuming that this is the only input and that this is telling us how we got that there was 1. But it's possible that this is also something that the user has control over. Still feels to me like the reason you're getting a bonus is because the fox matches up here. We've got black color is owl, and there's no owl. And well, let me think about that. What am I saying here? Black color is owl. Why do we care about black color? Hmm. All right, let's make our observations again. Blue and black, blue and black. Black and red, just red. Red and blue, just blue. So again, just to think out loud for a second, my intuition is that this card by itself is doing the scoring, that this card is worth 1, and this card is worth 2, and this card is worth 3, and that this is telling us sort of why it's worth 1, why it's worth 2. But that might be wrong. It might be that this combined with this situation on the board is worth 1. So in that case, what we're looking at is we've got this on the board. We play this. We've only matched 1 color. Here, we've matched 2 colors. No blacks, but 2 reds. And what have we matched here? 1 black one red, sorry, one blue, and one flag. It's a little awkward though. Like, if that's how you scored this, then someone has to tell us where these three are on the board when you play this. Why does this card go with these three things? It's a very odd. Let's do some more counting here. These are our D cards. Then we've got 10 cards here. And we've got 12 cards here. That's 10 plus 12 is 22. And then let's see if there's 10 here or something else. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So probably these 10 are these 10 lined up face down. When do you reveal one? Not clear. Oh, we've got a big deck of cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Maybe a little less than 40 cards. So we're not using all of these cards unless they're stacked. Let's read everything again. Scrolled on some tablets. I've encountered depictions of a particular character on a journey. A character on a journey. Starts from humble beginnings, ends with a giant crowded arena. I wonder what the arena event could be about. There's an initial setup. There's a second stage. Player interaction. How do the cards interact with each other? Then there's a second stage. How do you increase your score? All right, you guys talk amongst yourselves here. Let me just look at this for a second. To me, this looks like at the end of the first stage, you've got first place and second place, or you're tallying up the... Notice these are not the colored tokens. This is money. This looks like it's saying you get 5 for every bet you made on the first place, and sorry, that you get 8 for first place and 5 for second place. Okay, let's try attacking it from the other direction. If this is some sort of racing betting game, we need to have... Do we need to have the the discs be player colors? Do we though? I mean, we've clearly got 4 racing charioteers. Do we? Looks like we do. So 4 colors are racing. But might you have a situation where you're using these 4 players? Certainly seems like they've each got their own color. But when you look here, it looks like there are only 3 racers. Maybe. Three racers for these 3 flags? Is there... We've got owl, fox, lion. We've just got 3 animals. 3 animals in 3 colors. Are these the 3 racers? Black, blue, and red? But then the description says a particular character on a journey. Is it a single character? I feel like we could figure this out. What the heck is this about, though? This looks like a bag with an axe, stone axe, and maybe a pile of tokens. What are you doing with all your tokens? You're putting them in the bag? $10 and $10. Does this just stay this way? I mean, this is the total set of the cards. I feel like this just stays out. And then you play cards. It's not clear how you play them. You play a card from your hand. Fox, black, and blue move. Red, fox, fox, blue, Fox blue, owl black. Three, four. Why is the owl not doing anything? I mean, I could be barking up the wrong tree, but it sure seems like move 1, move 2, move 3. One, move 2, move 3. Could be different, right? It could say if there's one charioteer on a space, there's 2 charioteers on a space, if there's 3, showing that this is 2, but that wouldn't make sense. You'd need to have a place where you're saying what 4 means. Surely this is move 1 space, move 2 spaces, move 3 spaces. I mean, here the fox is blue, and it's not helping you. And here the fox is blue. Is this saying that this player has a token claiming a blue thing, a black thing, and a fox? And here he's matched 3 things. Here, this player is claiming the owl, the red horse, and the red chariot, and he's matching 2 things. This player has claimed the blue chariot, the black horse, and the black sword, and here he's claiming 1 thing. Okay, so here is what I'm hypothesizing. That we're looking at the playing of a card and each player claiming 3 spaces on this grid. So my hypothesis is that this player has chosen their 3 places like this. Then they play this card and you look at the matches. How many of their tokens are on a red or a lion or a blue or a fox? And in this case, they've got 1 token on a blue, so they get 1 movement. And then this player here has got a red chariot, a red horse, and an owl. And then they play this card. So they're getting a point for a black lion, blacks, reds, foxes, or lions. So you look here and you say, okay, they've got 2 reds, so they move 2. They don't have any blacks, they don't have any lions, they don't have any foxes. So they move 2 spaces. In this case, we've got a blue chariot, a black horse, and a fox. They've played fox, blue, black, owl. So they get points for their blues, 1. They get points for their blacks, 1. They get points for their fox, 1. So that's 3. So that's a theory of how you place tokens on this board, and then you score based on a card. Aha! That's why there are 3 cards here. That's why there are 3 portrait-orientated cards here. Each player can place their tokens on 3 cards in this portrait-oriented set of 12. Each player can place their tokens on 3 cards in this set. And that's why these cards are portrait oriented and these are horizontally oriented. Now, okay, that's a working theory. That's a working theory. What does it explain? It explains the 3 cards here. It explains the idea that each player is using their colored tokens to mark 3. What do they do with the rest? I don't know. That would mean they don't have cards in hand, though, that they're just picking 3 to place on. Doesn't explain this. Doesn't explain this. Doesn't explain how we get a card flipped over. It does explain these 3 rows. It doesn't explain this, which I think is stage 2. All right, let's look at the chat. Let's see what the chat has come up with. Let's scroll up a bit. Okay. Could it be similar to poker? Different card combinations or varying attack values. Maybe each player gets 3 of the sword, horse, chariot, flag cards. That would equal 12 cards for 4 players. Okay, it sounds like Annika is coming up with similar to what I said, but maybe simpler. I think it's showing how many moves the tile permits out of the 3 cards on hand. I think it's showing how many moves the tile permits out of the 3 cards on hand. The more matches, the more moves. I guess we're all on the same kind of page there. Each of those either match or not match with the current tile, giving you a move. Okay, so it sounds like we're on a similar page. Is it number of color matches, number of symbol matches? Doesn't sound like a racing game or a betting game. Groot says, I wonder if players have to lay down card combination guesses, and then if they match the dominoes card, Say we are right about the 3 cards per person, matching the cards on the racetrack. What are the colored discs for? Do you bet on how many are right? I think the colored tokens are just to keep track of score. Best score from 3 races. We still have the bag icon. I thought the tokens were hit points and that one could attack with a sword, damage a chariot like an ancient version of battle cars, but I've dropped that idea. No idea what the bag with the hammer is representing. All right, it sounds like we are being challenged by this game quite a bit. So I think we're getting there though. Okay, what if you have to bid for these cards? So what if, okay, look up here. What if these 10 cards are shown? We shuffle these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We pick 10 cards for this race. And we turn them face up. Like here's face down black, face up is white. So we build a little racetrack. Well, we don't build a racetrack. We just put 10 cards and we show everyone which 10 cards are going to be the tracks in this race. With this knowledge, then, players bid to take these cards. Each player is going to get 3 cards. So if you saw that most of the cards here were blue owls, then you would be incentivized to want an owl and the blue cards. You would bid high for those. Once all the bidding is done, everyone has 3 cards in front of them. And then you take these cards and you shuffle them or not, and you lay them out on this track, and you reveal one at a time. So you would reveal, let's say, this one first, and then everyone who had a red would move 1, anyone with a lion would move 1, anyone with a blue would move 1, and anyone with an owl would move 1. You'd move according to how many matches you had with the cards you had claimed from here. And the first person to get here would win that race. That is an interesting idea. That, if you figured out the details of the bidding, that would make a bit of a game. That would make a game. No rules specified for how the bids work. But maybe you could infer that. Remember, the official puzzle doesn't require you to understand all the rules, just to be able to answer the questions. And then the iconography would be like, this is talking about how much money they have to bid. I think that would make it sort of consistent with this. How, maybe it's not, this seems to suggest it's a blind bid, But then what would you do? Go through these cards one at a time? It's a little weird. But maybe you shuffle them up here into this deck and then you bid one at a time. That would be a elaborate game, though. A little bit like No Thanks, where a card, or For Sale, each card comes up and then there's a bid for it. A blind bid. Okay, so, but we could imagine that that is the gist of the game. You're bidding for these cards, you get 3. And then you run the race and just play it out. That you're not making decisions here, you're just running this race. That is at least a consistent explanation for most of this and all of this. And I think that is the gist of it. That each player has 3 cards. 3 of these cards. And so depending on the card that comes up on this section of the track, that's how far they moved. It would be nice if we had a better example showing us that in this case, yellow and red moved 2, purple moved 1, and blue didn't move at all. That's okay. Now, that's not the whole game, though, because we're told explicitly there are multiple stages. Let's take a look at this questions again and see if we can see where we're missing stuff. What does the initial setup look like? What does the setup look like for the second stage of play? What's the main form of player interaction? So I'm proposing it's a bidding for cards. And it might not even be blind bidding. It could even be that you have an auction. Maybe that's what this is. Maybe this is the primitive. That's what this is. That's an auction block. This is an auction block, I think. This is the hammer that the auctioneer uses. The hammer and stone, but set in primitive times. So I think that's what's happening. I think we're auctioning off these cards. A typical auction system is like you start at this player, he can bid 1, next player has to be higher. If everyone passes, then the person who played it won, and then he would start the next round. So if I had to guess, I'd guess you show the cards that are going to be in the track, you shuffle these up here, and you auction them off one at a time. That would go faster too, if you didn't have to do blind bidding, if you did an auction. Not sure why it's being shown in a bag, but okay. And then you could guarantee that every card gets purchased by making the starting bidder always have to bid 1. Something like that. Okay. But then what's stage 2? So we have this race. And at the end, we have winners and we have a winner. At the end, we have a winner. So why is there a stage 2? Let's look here, because there's obviously stuff we're not getting, because what ways can a player increase their score? We don't have a rule for that, do we? Is it possible? Is it possible that what we've got is a situation where we're looking at having tokens left over, and you can win by not spending all your tokens? Is this saying first place gets 8 coins, second place gets 5 coins, and whatever tokens you don't spend are coins? Something like that? I don't love that as a game. Doesn't feel like 7 tokens is enough to purchase 3 cards. And what if you spent all your bid on 1 card? How would you get... How do you guarantee that each player gets 3 cards? Seems like we're missing something, but... What if it... What if it is like a betting game? What if there's an initial phase... What if you're assigning 3 cards to each color, randomly perhaps? And then you're betting on the winner? And you're betting on winner and loser. Is that what's happening? Like, is there a stage where you're constructing these 4 charioteers? So my claim is that somehow, no matter what the rules are, my claim is that you're building 4 charioteers, either by the players each representing their own charioteer and bidding for them. But what if you didn't? What if you sort of randomly assigned 3 of these cards to the purple horse, the yellow horse, the red horse, and the blue horse? And then that was stage 1. Maybe you're letting players bid on it or somehow, but that's the construction of the racers. And then you're betting on once this is distributed, once 3 cards are assigned to each racer, and then you're going to run them through their race. Are you betting on who's going to win? And that's how you win the game, by betting correctly. And you get 7 points, for each bet on the winner, and 5 points for each second place person. What is the mechanical way you would bet, though? You're betting on a color. What if each player gets... What if each player gets like 2 of each color, and they secretly... Why would you even need all these 8? Maybe each player takes some of these tokens secretly, and that's their bet. So like you take all of these tokens except for one, you put them in a bag, and then you let each player choose who they're betting on by picking tokens. And they hide them in their bag. They hide them secretly. Then you run the race, and everyone reveals who did you bet on. And one player might open up their hand, and they'd have like this. That means they put most of their money on red, some on blue, and some on purple. And if red won, they'd get 2 times 7. If red came in second, they'd get 2 times 5. Something like that. What do you think about that theory? Let's see. Phase 1 would be betting based on the shown track tiles. And then phase 2, setup, phase 1, phase 2. Setup, phase 1, phase 2. Everyone bets, you run the race, then you calculate the bets. Everyone keeps their bets secret. I think that makes more sense than bidding, although you could have a separate bidding phase too. And then this is first place, second place. And then maybe you can influence the horses. That's pretty common in a sort of party game, racing game, to have a betting phase and a way to influence the race phase. So you might have a case where everyone can spend their money by fighting for which cards go to which color. Or maybe it's totally random. And then you have a secret betting phase where these tokens are kept by each player separately, secretly, to show how they bet. I do like this idea. I like this basic idea. Let's see the chat, though. Only 3 cards. The maximum move is 9 in total. Not enough to pass the finish line with 10 cards. That's not right. That's not right. I don't think that's right at all. there's 10 cards in the track, most cards are going to move you 2 spaces. Some cards are going to move you 3. It's probably impossible not to, in 10 cards, move 10 spaces. By the time 10 cards get turned over, one of these horses is going to cross way before then. Each card that flips is going to cause some markers to move 2 spaces and some to move 3 spaces. So I think 10 cards is easily enough to get one horse across the finish line. So I don't really understand that comment. You're saying only 3 cards. No, that's not how it works. Maybe I need to re-explain the theory here. These cards, here, let's do it this way. These cards are just shown as a general thing. Then either they get bid on or they get shuffled up. And then for each of the colors, purple, yellow, red, and blue, you assign 3 of these cards, whether it's random or according to bidding. So each color, each of these horses, charioteers, gets 3 cards assigned to them. This is showing what they move on. Purple moves on blue, fox, and black. Yellow moves on owl, blue, and blue. Red moves on lion, red, and black. Blue moves on red, red, and black. And then these represent our track of 10 cards. So we start off with 1 for each color, a purple, a yellow, a red, and a blue. Here's our track of 10. I'm going to lay them out this way. This is my proposal, at least. We all start out on 0. Or I guess both 4, 0. And then we flip the first card. Now everyone with black, owl, blue, or lion will move that many spaces. So purple has a blue, a black, and a fox. So purple would move 2. Black, owl, blue, lion. This guy has 2 blues and an owl. So yellow is going to move 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. Red matches lion and a black. Red goes 2 spaces. Blue has 1 black. And that's it. So blue goes 1 space. These should be here, I suppose. And then the next card gets turned over. Okay. Now everyone with a black, a lion, a red, or a fox would go. That many spaces. So purple has a black and a fox. Purple goes 2 spaces. Yellow has no black, no lion, no fox, and no red. Yellow doesn't move at all. Red matches the lion, matches the red, matches the black. So red goes 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. So red is in the lead. Blue has 2 matches of red and 1 match of black. So blue is going to go 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. And so on. So after only 2 cards are revealed, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The leading horse has moved 5 spaces. So this is how we run the race. Every card that's revealed is going to make everyone jump ahead from 0 to 3 spaces. How these get assigned could be done randomly, could be done by bidding. But you can see now we're running a race. There is some logic to betting because all of these cards are known ahead of time, the 10 cards in the race, but you probably don't know what order they're going to be randomly distributed in, so you just have to work on your statistics. If this was a normal party racing betting game, players should be able to bet during the course of it. That's one of the common game mechanics of a betting game is you don't just bet at the beginning. You allow additional bets as things get revealed, but I'm not sure how that would work here. In this case, the colored discs have to be kept by each player, right? Like player 1, if he was betting on, let's say player 1 was all betting on red, these colors don't represent player colors anymore. These colors represent the chariots that are running. So each player needs to be able to take any mix of colors they want. So it's not clear to me from this when the betting would occur, whether it would all be done at the beginning, whether it would be done publicly. This does seem to suggest that phase 1 is betting. What if betting was done publicly and you bet after each card was assigned? So here's a proposal. We start the game. And every time I reveal a card, like you get to see the racetrack. Every time I reveal a card, all players can pick one of these. Like they think, okay, how good is that? Do I think red's gonna win? So everyone would take a disc publicly from these stacks. As each new card comes out, everyone takes one disc, and that's their bet. That would be public betting. So by the time you got to 12 cards revealed, there would be 12 discs gone for each player. 48 discs. It's not enough discs. So I don't think that can quite work. So I'm not sure the actual mechanics of when you bet, but we don't have to solve that. Let's see if we're in a position to answer these questions without understanding it fully. What does the initial setup look like? So in this claim, in this scenario, this is not the initial setup, depending on how you want to phrase it. The initial setup is 3 cards assigned to each of the 4 colored charioteers. However this gets done, it feels like that's the setup. Each of these cards is assigned differently to the charioteers. 12 cards, 12 cards. That's initial setup, and you get to see the racetrack cards face up. So that's the answer to this. Or if you wanted to say initial setup looks exactly like this, and then the next thing you do is you bid these cards out into this pile. Either way. The second stage of play is here. That's the race. What is the main form of player interaction? Here you could say it's either betting or influencing which cards get assigned to each charioteer. I'm undecided about that. How do the wooden discs function during gameplay? I think the answer to that is a little bit complicated. They function here to track progress on the racetrack, and they function here as betting. Each player betting for their chosen horse. How do the cards interact with each other? I think that's what we figured out here. It's the rule to say how many chariot spaces each charioteer moves based on which 3 cards are assigned to each charioteer and which card comes up on the current racetrack space. I feel pretty good about that. And then, how is the second stage of play resolved? That's the movement. That's the movement on the track. I guess that's the answer to this. How do the cards interact with each other? And then how is the second stage? It feels like those we would answer the same way. What ways can a player increase their score? I think that's the answer, betting on the winner. Winner and second place. Betting more of their chips on the winner. I don't love the way this is phrased. How can players increase their score? How does the game end and what determines the winner? Whoops. I think the winner is whoever has the highest gold. In a regular racing party game, you would get points for your horse coming in first, too. So you could imagine that it's also the case where each player is choosing a horse to back, and you also get bonus if your horse comes in addition to whatever you get from your bet. Then it feels like we're missing a little bit of information there. And how would you track what horse you own? Feels like we don't have enough information to answer all these. All right, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We've been working on this 1 hour and a half. I would say this is our hardest game so far. We've got 2 free hints. The hints aren't that useful, but I'm thinking we should take all of our hints, which is going to cost us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points if we end up taking all our hints, except for the 2 free ones, but it does feel like it's the right thing to do. The hints aren't that useful. So why don't we take our break here for 8 minutes. You guys chew on what you want to disagree with me about, and then we'll start looking at the hints before we make our final decision. Okay, I'll see you in 8 minutes. Well, we're back. Discussing how we're going to use our hints. Maybe it's not... Okay. Miss Gnosis says, there are possible setups, betting mechanics that would make for a nice game, but these mechanics feel more like invented by us rather than actually depicted. Annika said, maybe it's not as complicated as we made it, just auction of cards and then race. I do think that is sort of the key place where I'm stumbling, because it feels like there should be a betting system based on what makes these kinds of games fun, but there doesn't seem to be any evidence for it. This looks like it's auctioning what color gets these cards, with the details of the auction set aside, and then we just race. And then I guess first place gets this, second place gets this. But this should be a clue that there has to be some sort of betting, because this doesn't make sense if you have to pick a winner. Like, who cares what you get for coming in second? The winner is the winner of the race. So why do you need to show money for non-first place? If that's indeed what this is showing. The second clue that there must be something else going on has to do with the questions. What ways can a player increase their score? There are only a couple of options there. One is that there's some betting. There is another possibility, though, which is that you're doing some sort of auctioning for these cards, and you could choose to hold back and not spend all your money. So that you could imagine a scenario where purple comes in second with 5 points, but saved up 4 of their money tokens and didn't spend them, and then so 5 plus 4 is 9. They beat the first place winner who has none left over. That sounds pushing it to me. It feels to me like a betting would be a more enjoyable way to play a game. There are money icons before each player color. What if you're betting with money instead of tokens? That feels like that would be a bit of a cheat to have pieces that are not included here. So far, we've always been using the tokens as the money. What if winning a race earns you tokens, giving you priority pick of cards in next round? I don't think there's multiple rounds here. It's an interesting idea. All right, well, we've got some good hypotheses, some working stuff, some details that we don't know but maybe aren't important. It's time now for us to take some hints and see if we can't get answers to our questions. We have 2 free hints, and then I'd be inclined to take all the rest of them. But let's try to be clever about hints. Take the hints we need most of. Okay, so I would argue that there's a couple questions that would help us resolve our stuff. It seems like our main questions are, how do the cards get assigned? Like what's the actual interaction that occurs in stage 1? I think we're most confident about how you run the race, and then we're least confident about any betting. So it seems to me that the questions that we're most unsure about, that would give us the most bang for the buck, might be here. What's the main form of player interaction? And then here, how can you increase your score? Because we're hoping this will say something about betting. We think we understand this is a race, and I suppose very related would be this. How do the wooden discs function? We think we know how they function during running of the race, but we're not sure how they're used in the rest of the game. So that's another big one. I think 95 and 27 feel like the same thing, so I'm a little worried about that, but otherwise I would guess we know those. And then, you know, this last one here would be nice if it gave us a hint about whether there was bets involved or not. So let me shift these over so we can see the numbers, and you tell me which ones you care about most. Maybe I have to put them in a way. So I guess I'm voting for the 2 reds first, but any of these 4 would work for me. So I say 1940 and then 74 and 10. Anyone think that there are things that what's your number 1? Let's agree on that first. Remember that these hints are so obscure, so obtuse, so tiny that they rarely give us anything. So we really got to look for one that might nudge us just the tiniest bit with one word. I guess 19 might give us a hint about betting or auctioning. Betting or bidding. That would be a nice hint. And then 40 might reinforce that. Okay, I think we go 19 and then 40. All right, so remember, these are just one-line hints, and I'm going to read them so you don't see anything you shouldn't see. Starting with 19. It says, going once, going twice. All right, so going once, going twice, there was our confirmation that this is the auction hammer and the whatever you call the place that you hit the auction hammer on. Going once, going twice, sold. All right, so now our theory here is correct. This is an auction. It's an auction for filling out your Chariot Racer's 3 cards. So now we know it's not randomly assigned. There is an auction, so you do have incentive to build up your chariot. So you know if most of the race cards are red, let's say you got all the race cards out and they looked a lot like this, then you'd know, hey, I should try to get the Lions and the Reds. So that's the first stage. You learn about which 10 cards are going to be on the racetrack, and then you try to get your horse, your chariot racer, the cards that are going to move him forward the most. This is like a real party racing game. And if your horse comes in first, you're going to get 7 gold. So that's the core of the game. Bid for the right cards at the right price that will get your horse across the finish line first. Now, the answer to this question about how you can increase your score, we have 2 theories, 2 hypotheses. One is you could save money during the bidding phase, during the auction phase. If you save some of your coins, they would get added, and maybe you could even surpass the first player, the winner, if you got second place and had left over. That's one theory. The other theory is some sort of betting, which we have no evidence for, but feels like it would be a better game. So, next clue is clue 40, and we're looking for a hint about saving your bidding money or betting. This is going to be the thing that lets us win it if we can figure out if clue 40 gives us enough to decide between these 2 choices. Clue 40. Being thrifty can only get you so far. Well, that's what we were hoping for. Something to point us between a betting game or save your money auction game. And that seemed to resolve it in favor of you can save some of your money during the auction in order to jump from second place to first place. So I think we've basically got the answer to our questions. You see all the cards that are going to be in the racetrack. You have a first round here is bidding for which cards your horse, your charioteer triggers on. Then you shuffle up the racetrack cards, you reveal them one at a time, and you move people 1 to 3 spaces on each card, and you calculate the first and second place winner. At that point, the first place winner wins 7 gold, the second place winner wins 5 gold, plus add whatever you didn't spend while you were bidding for cards. The actual bidding mechanic, we are not expected to figure out. There are lots of different auctioning rules used in board games, some very creative. A game that is sort of famous, there are a bunch of games that are famous for auction mechanics, but I believe one of the older, more famous games that uses different bidding mechanics is Modern Art. I believe Modern Art is a game where you actually tour different kinds of auctions, blind auctions, public auctions. So we don't know how that works. The game doesn't expect us to answer that question. The only thing that's throwing me a little is like bidding for 3 cards and you have a total of 7 tokens to bid with. It just doesn't feel like enough. But in other words, it doesn't feel like enough to play an actual good game. And then what happens if you bid all your tokens for one card? Like, how do you get the other two? So I'm a little iffy about this as an actual playable game, what you would choose for your auction mechanics. Like, you could imagine a scenario where everyone gets their first card by paying 6 of their 7 tokens. And then you've got 8 more cards to auction off, and no one has enough tokens to buy any. So I'm finding that a little weird. But you could come up with rules so that it could happen. I just have a hard time seeing, like, the only reason you try to have some left over is if you could beat... Well, I guess it's not true. I guess you're not just trying to beat first place, but even if you're trying to win first place, maybe you're trying not to spend all your gold so you can get some extra. I just don't love the actual gameplay of the auctioning. Seems a little weak. Is the racetrack card revealed before the auction? That is our working theory. That is my working theory, which is that at the very beginning, you see the 10 from the deck, you pick 10 random cards, and then everyone gets to see them. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So everyone sees the 10 cards that are going to be in the race. However, you don't know what order they're going to come out. And the race will be over before you get through all 10. So you have some idea of the statistics, but probably not enough to really know exactly what you would want. But enough to know what your top choices are. This just feels like a little bit not enough to have a good auction with, but maybe that's okay. Maybe it doesn't have to be a good game. All right, so we're not here. We're here. We're here, sorry. All right, now let's decide. We've taken our 2 hints. Those are our 2 free hints. So if we stop now without taking any hints, we could get an absolutely perfect score. But I would argue that that's pushing our luck a little bit. These hints were super useful. What about our next set of secondary hints? So our answer to here is be thrifty. So that was not spend all your discs on the auction. That makes sense. Here is going, going, gone. We know it's bidding. So my next choices, though, were... How do the wooden discs function during gameplay? How does the game end and what determines the winner? It feels like we know the answer to those now. There's no betting. And so the only point of the discs during gameplay is to track the position of each horse and to be used for bidding in the first stage. So I feel like we know the 74 answer. And then how does the game end and what determines the winner? That is the horse race. And then the winner, who is whoever has the most money. Maybe you could argue that the initial setup, we're not sure if these cards get randomized and then bid, but I think they do. I think you just look, this is showing you everything, and then you shuffle these up into a deck and auction them off one at a time. If I had to guess, I would guess 74 is going to tell us like it has two uses. For bidding and for moving the charioteers. I feel like maybe we should go for it. Nelson says, what if we got $1 per remaining token on every turn? You're saying, what if the... First of all, I'm reluctant to allow any other item to play with other than these tokens. So I'm just saying that this is a symbol reminding you that these are worth $1 each left over. But it could be that it wants you to also assume that the players have coins to bet with. The thing is, if you were bidding with other money and not using the tokens, then what would the tokens be used for? I think this is just saying that each of these tokens is worth 1 coin, something like that. I guess it's interesting if you didn't spend any of your tokens on bidding, you'd have 7. And the winner gets 7. So you tie the winner? That seems weird. If your horse, if you don't bid at all and you keep all 7 of your betting tokens and just take whatever you get, then maybe you gotta bid something for it. But it is weird that it feels like you could almost win this game just by not playing. But I suppose if you kept all your tokens, you'd have 7. And then as long as the winner kept 1, they'd beat you. That's a little weird here. I mean, do we all agree that this is just whoever comes in first place gets 7 and second place gets 5, something like that, plus your leftover money? I think we should just risk it. I know I'm going back on what I've said in the past about you should take all the hints. We're going to hate ourselves if one of these hints would help us. maybe that's a better way to think about it. Like, are we so greedy for a perfect score that we're gonna rob ourselves of the satisfaction of saving ourselves from a mistake? Ten would be a good confirming hint. It's true. It's just if we hadn't gotten the hint for 40, then 10 would be good. But if 40 says you can increase your score by being thrifty, that really seems to lock down how the game works. That if you save some of your bidding money, surely whoever has the most money wins. Yeah. Did we look at 74? We didn't look at 74, right? How do the wooden discs function during gameplay? Didn't it say being thrifty alone isn't enough to win? It didn't say that. It just said the way you can increase your score is to be thrifty, which is completely consistent. I think maybe we should look at 70. We did look at 74? No, we looked at 19 and we looked at 40. Those were free. So we never looked at 74. I think we know 74, but I guess if I had to pick one of these that I want to make sure we don't make a mistake, it would be 74. We couldn't have looked at, if we looked at 74, then we have to penalize ourselves a point. Let me look at 74. Maybe we did read it. I don't think we did. 74 says, they might not all be used the same way. Okay, so we didn't do 74, and now we have a punishment of -1 point. So there goes our perfect score. However, it did confirm and didn't give us any useful information. Basically says you don't use it the same way throughout the game, which makes sense because we think you use the discs first to bid and then second to track the position around the race. Okay, so I think you could look at 10, but I think we're done. That's all right. I think we're done. All right, that's it. We're going to read the solution. This has been an exciting one. Let's see if we feel good about the explanation or if we feel like we've been cheated. Are we ready? Does anyone want to get on record disagreeing with any of the details of this game as we've set out? To recap, all players see the 10 cards that are going to be part of the track. They then bid probably one card at a time to fill out the 3 cards from this grid that make up their charioteer. So after the end of bidding, every color, every player will have a charioteer with 3 of these cards. Players will have, whatever the bidding mechanism is, they can keep some of their bidding tokens not spent. At that point, we run the race. We run the race by turning cards over one at a time, everyone starting at 0. When you flip over a card, you look for each charioteer of the player colors. You look for how many of their 3 cards match color or god, and you move them that many spaces. So here, one of their cards matched color or shape, so they move 1 space. Here, 2 of their cards matched color, so they move 2 spaces. Here, all three of their cards matched. So that's all you do. You just look at the 3 cards. That's why you can only go 1, 2, or 3 spaces. You look at the 3 cards that are owned by this charioteer, and for each card that matches, you move 1 space. This blue matches, the black matches, and the fox matches. So they move 3. At the end of the race, you will have a first and second place finisher. The first place finisher is going to win the first place finisher is going to win 7 gold. The second place finisher is going to win 5 gold. Then you add up however many tokens you did not spend during your bid. That's your final score. So probably most of the time the first place player will win, but it's possible the second place player could surpass them if they've saved enough tokens. Does anyone want to disagree with anything there? If you do, now is your time before we read the solution. And we have not specified the specifics of the bidding, but we're not asked to, so I think we're okay. Now, I have also registered my complaint that I feel like it's going to be hard to get to actually have an interesting bidding mechanic with 7 tokens to get 3 cards and have any left over. So that's bothering me a little, but maybe you could imagine a world where I don't know how you'd have to have that bidding so that would be a reasonable number left over. I think it would be more fun as a betting game, but that's not what this is. Okay. Here we go. No one is on the record disagreeing. Where's my card to cover it up so we can read it one thing at a time? All right, here we go. Lots of questions here, lots of room to get points. Shall we clear our space here so we have a nice clean table? All right, here we go. Big Site 7. The Charioteer. Oh, it looks like we've got 2 columns of answers. All right, what does initial setup look like? Lay out the 10 track cards face up in any configuration. Lay out the 12 market cards face up in a central location visible by all players. So this is correct with our theory of the 10. I'm not sure about this market cards. Let's keep reading. Then distribute 7 discs of the same color to each player. Okay, so I guess question 1, I'm going to say correct with a little squiggle because of this 12 market cards. But maybe they're bidding by putting their discs on the cards as we originally thought. The second stage of play, randomly place all 10 track cards face down in a circular track formation. All players place their 8th disc in the sun position just outside the beginning of the track. Okay, so were those 2 questions separate? Okay, because that one we got correct. Okay, that'll be 3 points, 3 points. All right, let's keep going. What is the main form of player interaction? Players take turns starting a turn order auction for one of the 12 market cards. Okay, so this auction is not per card, but for player turn to make a pick of cards, it seems. Maybe that's a more interesting way to auction. Let's keep reading here. A maximum of 3 market cards are allowed to be purchased by each player. Okay, so taking a turn order auction. So does everyone understand what that's basically saying? This is interaction question. Basically, instead of saying here's a card and we auction it off, you say let's have a bid for who picks next. And that person would pick. Turn order auction. Okay, I'm not sure that's any better or worse. I guess we give ourselves full points for that. I'm not sure. How do the wooden discs function differently? 7 of the discs belong to each player to function as the gold they will use to participate in the auctions. The 8th one is the chariot. Okay, so this is the discs. We understood that correctly. In fact, we wasted a hint on that. All right, so that's that. Now let's keep going here. How do the cards interact with each other? The market cards contain 2 features, colors and god types. Track cards also contain these 2 features. For example, if a black horse was purchased from the market, it would directly correspond to any track card containing a black god. All right, so card interaction, we also understood that rule correctly. How is the second stage of play resolved? We said this question and this question seem almost the same. One at a time, each face-down track card is revealed. When revealed, all players will examine the track card colors and god types and compare the amount to their own market cards, gods, and colors. For each match, your chariot moves 1 card clockwise around the track. This movement is simultaneous for all players. Okay, so second stage, we got that completely correct. That was the most fun aha moment of the game. What ways can a player increase their score? All gold left over from the auction is saved and can be added to the gold reward you get for finishing placement. First place is 7 and second place is 5. So the increase of score, we also understood 100% correctly. How does the game end? Okay, when a player exits the last card of the track enters the moon space, the game will end and second place is awarded to whoever is farthest along among the other players. Whoever has the most gold wins. So once again, we got everything right. 100% minus 1 hint. You could argue that the one thing that we sort of disagreed with the archaeologists about was the nature of the auction. Here they're saying the auction is for turn order, meaning you just randomly have an auction. Who gets to go first? Whoever wins takes whichever card they want from the market. And we said instead of having 12 auctions for choice, you would just auction each card one at a time. Either would work. We definitely talked about the nature of the auction being ambiguous. In fact, the actual way bidding is done is not specified at all. Is it open? Is it closed fist? Does it go in a circle until no one increases? All of that is left unspecified. I think if I had to argue, I would argue that this iconography seems like it's saying bid on the cards, which was our guess, rather than turn order. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to deduct any points for that. So what we've got is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 questions. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 questions times 3. We got a perfect score of 24. -1 for our extra hint we took, with a total score of 23. So there's our celebration. Let's go write it in here. We've got 23 of 24 points, -1 for our hint. Okay, let's talk about the experience. If anyone disagrees, thinks I'm being too generous. Let's see. I don't think you should take the -1 point for reading the last hint because we messed up. We didn't mess up. I was going to pay for that hint. I didn't reread it. I didn't read it because I thought we had reread it. I already knew we didn't reread it. I thought it was worth taking a little penalty and reading an extra hint. So I'm completely comfortable with that. Turn order auction was really not indicated by the icons, in my opinion. Yeah, the way we've been playing this game is if our answer is equally good or better than the official answer, then we go with ours, which is fine. I'm completely fine with that. So I don't deduct the turn auction from us saying a card auction. But Nelson says, I would remove a point because we did not find out it was a turn order auction. I'm going to disagree with that. I'm not going to take away that point because I think there's no way to know what kind of auction. And we're going to treat the rules answer as a suggestion, and we're going to use our own judgment about whether we think the archaeologists scoring us are over their skis in saying what the correct answer is. But we did it. We did it, and we deserve that confetti. That was a serious one. And all our hard work taking this game seriously paid off. And we really struggled with this one. We struggled quite a bit until things started coming into place. The only thing that we sort of got off track about was the betting, just because that seemed like it would make for a better game. And that is the common way these party games are done. But that's actually to the game's credit that the hints, we picked 2 hints that we thought would give us the best bang for the buck. And not only were we right that those one-line hints gave us the best bang for the buck, but the first one clarified, we knew in both cases what we were trying to get between A or B. That was maybe the most satisfying part about this. I think this was our best scenario, our most enjoyable, interesting scenario. And to me, there were 2 highlights of it. The first highlight was when we figured out how this part worked and what it was trying to say. And that came in multiple steps. First, we figured out movement 1, movement 2, movement 3. When we figured out these rules, that was pretty good. In retrospect, it seems pretty simple. And then figuring out that each horse gets a set of 3 of these, very cool. Intuiting that this is an auction, very cool. So real fun in that phase. Great stuff. And then we got the extra wonderfulness of saying that we weren't sure about whether there was betting going on. And we picked 2 questions. Sorry, it's here. We picked 2 questions, and for each one we said, let's hope it tells us whether it's auction or betting. And we got that answer with this one. And then when we got to hear about increasing score, that was our final clue that was going to tell us, is it about, and we said the 2 choices, is it either about saving leftover bidding tokens to add to your score, or is it about betting? And then that hint, that 1-line hint said it pays to be thrifty. That answered our final remaining question. Two and a half hours we've played. Boy, I mean, think about what we got out of basically just this card. So far, we are on a roll. Boy, that's some good stuff. That is just a very, very satisfying puzzle game. Very densely packed in this little card. And again, a game you could sit and play. Although I have my doubts about this auction mechanic being sufficient. All right, so I've mentioned also, let me recap 3 board games that if you're curious about auctioning, actually, let's make it 4. So one of my favorite little games is called No Thanks. And that's got a very cool auction mechanic in it. It's a tiny little box game. It's one of the stars of the small box competitive games that I highly recommend. No Thanks. Another one that's a little less elegant, but also elegant, is For Sale. Another great little small box auctioning game. Very clever. And then Modern Art, which has this tour of different auction mechanics, a more involved, larger game, but not too large, multiple reprints. And then another very famous game with auction is Reiner Knizia's Ra, which is a little too intense for me. So I would recommend No Thanks as my top choice, and then maybe For Sale and Modern Art. But I think so. This Unboxed game is brilliant. I do think this should win some awards. I don't think it's getting the love it deserves. When we finish, we'll try to do something about it with a nice review, although I can't move the dial with my reviews. But a pleasure to play this with this group. I've said it before, I'll say it again. These games are fun to play because it's fun to share this experience with you and to play it with people who take it so seriously like I do. A pleasure. All right, I'll see some of you tomorrow for our narrative play-by-mail game, Letters from a Ghost Hunter. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time.